Hello and welcome to another episode of the CIRS Group podcast. I'm Jacie.
And I'm Barbara.
And if you see this big white blob move while we're recording, that's Murphy. He's currently asleep, but he may wake up and move. So that's what's happening there.
It's not an
The,
apparition. Is that what you're warning us all
yeah,
about?
I'm not actually possessed. I don't have ghosts. Just one big dog that's big and white and fluffy. But today we're talking about alopecia, so the opposite of Murphy, which is very hairy. And alopecia is an autoimmune thing, but it is related to CIRS, and we're going to get all into that today. But before we jump in, none of this is medical advice. Talk to your practitioners, providers, if you think this may be affecting you and how you might want to take care of it.
Yes. So, one of the reasons we're doing this episode is actually I have this condition. So, alopecia areata is like the official, I think, Greek-based name of hair loss that is an autoimmune condition. Your body is actually attacking the hair follicles so that they fall out. It's kind of, and I can say this just for myself, it's not a dumb condition to be sad about because I was sad about it when it first happened to me. But it feels like a dumb one only because you're not really in pain. It's not it's not threatening your life in any way. And I remember I'm just sharing this because I remember struggling with almost guilt for being sad about it, which is that's silly. I should it sucks to lose some of your hair, especially as a woman, and it does affect females more than males. But it sucks to have something that's like attached kind of to your beauty or your youth or your all the things that society tells you are good about yourself, to have that be taken away and to not even really know why. And we'll get into all of that. But I guess I just wanted to preface this episode with like my own like why I wanted to talk about it. And so yeah, I also another reason is it alopecia does show up in the news sometimes. I think everyone remembers the slap heard around the world. Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith, Chris Rock, that was at the Oscars, right? It was the Oscars.
I have no
JC's
idea.
completely uninterested in this part. If you know, you know the joke Chris Rock made a joke about Jada being bald and like having that haircut basically had nothing to do with her illness, but Will Smith decided to get up and slap the guy. That aside, more a more touching and kind of beautiful thing that's come up in current events is if anybody has been interested in Netflix documentaries, one recent one is America's Sweethearts, which is about Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. I have watched all of these, including the Making the Team series, but we don't need to get into that. But one of the recently retired cheerleaders has alopecia, and she actually has like her whole head is affected. She's completely bald. And there's a big thing with Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. They flip their hair around. It's just like a hair, there's hairography is what they call it. And so she always wore a wig for her whole like 4, 5, 6 years. I don't remember how many years she was cheerleading. But to bring attention to it, she went without a wig. And it was just like a very it was really cool of her to do that, showing anyone else who's affected with alopecia that you can still be beautiful without hair. And, it's just like one of those nice moments. So, because it came up in that, and also because I've had a couple flare-ups of my own, which you can't tell because I have a crap ton of hair. But yeah, those are all the reasons that we thought it would be timely to get into this particular autoimmune illness.
Did she share what wig glue she uses? Because they really flip their hair around. I'm impressed.
Right? You know what? She didn't go into that specifically I mean, they actually talk a lot about wig stuff and they've become, because I've watched the Making the Team that started like back in, I want to say like 2005, this reality show started, and now the Netflix series is just the last couple of years. But they've started to include like people who actually have understandings of wigs and like other things. Because some of the girls are wearing wigs, even if they don't have alopecia. So it's just been interesting to watch them be more inclusive in that way and also to learn more about that in general because knock on wood, I haven't needed to wear wigs. I don't know a lot about wig wearing, but it's complicated. And to your point, like I mean, Do we need to bring up drag queens as well? They are flipping their hair too a lot. Like if you have any wig wearing tips, glue tips, please go ahead and leave them in the comments.
Who knows, in the future we might have a wig episode. Barbara will finally be able to change her hair weekly instead of yearly. Be great.
Yay, that would be, yeah, no, no one needs that. Anyway, let's go into like what is alopecia areata. I hope I'm saying it right. I think I am. It just is a weird word. It is an autoimmune illness where the immune system is attacking the hair follicle. They actually can see little T cells swarm, like they've done research to see that the T cells have swarmed the roots. It causes inflammation and then the hair falls out. And what's really specific about this is that it comes in patches. And all right, I have a couple pictures of recent flare-ups, but it's what's so weird about it is it's a perfect, almost perfect, like circle or oval, as opposed to general hair loss, that sort of thing. So it's this like perfect circle of lack of hair in just a random spot on my head. Now, this only affects about zero point 0.1 to 0.2% of the population, which is kind of wild. I didn't realize how rare it was. That said, JC had a good point. It probably is a much higher percentage in the CIRS population because autoimmune illnesses do run a bit rampant in people with CIRS.
Yeah, so when Barbara was mentioning the T cells, like we know that T cells are super active in CIRS patients because it's a dysregulated immune system. That's what CIRS is by definition. And so for a lot of people, what that means is if they had the potential for an autoimmune disease, it does activate. It having CIRS can trigger those autoimmune symptoms. So if you had the genes for it and you never experienced autoimmune illness and then you had an exposure event, then you had an autoimmune illness. For a lot of CIRS patients, that's the pattern that we see because your immune system becomes dysregulated. And so that potential manifests.
Yeah. And that tracks for me. Just to quickly go through my history, the very first time I ever noticed it happening, maybe it happened earlier, but I don't remember that, is age 19. I had just moved to LA. I was working multiple jobs, and I had decided to press charges against my abuser from when I was a child. Lots of things, right? And I actually had my first panic attack around then. So it all of that made sense. Like, oh, I lost a patch of hair. And there were a couple more times within like a couple years where I had it basically three different spots that just dropped out of my head. And when I say that it drops out, like I don't witness it. It's not like there's more hair on my pillow or more hair in the shower. It just, maybe I was itching my head and I just feel that there's no hair there. Like that's always how I've discovered these missing patches of hair. Weirdly, I went 10 or 15-ish years without any other flare-ups. And suddenly last year, about 6 weeks after Rosie died, I got another like patch missing. And that one's growing in. That there's, if I could dig around, I won't because that'll be a weird. But like I have hair that's like that long coming out right here that is under my other hair. And then a couple months ago, probably in the midst of all of this back surgery business, and also giving a talk at CIRS X, I was under a lot of stress for that. I've lost yet another patch down here. Again, very thankful that it's not like right here or somewhere very obvious, but it is happening more lately. And I am under, I would say, more stress lately as well. So I guess that also brings us to, what can cause it is usually stress. And stress can come in the form of illness, other illnesses, mental illness, but any kind of stress that's going on can cause it. And there is some research that seems to indicate that vaccinations can also play a role, if we're allowed to say that yet, including HPV, which, interesting, also is genetics that can predetermine a person for having CIRS. So I thought that was all pretty interesting, and again shows the connection between this condition and chronic inflammatory response syndrome.
Yeah, and just to expand on that a little bit, what Barbara's talking about is when you do the blood work for CIRS, it's two parts. One is your genetics, one is your innate immune response. In the genetics piece, they're testing your HLA to see what your genetic predisposition for CIRS is. And one of them is specifically for vaccines, specifically the HPV vaccine. So it would be so interesting to see if there's overlap in the people who have alopecia
Yeah,
and have that gene. Do
I
you
know.
have, you don't have that one that though, do you?
No, I have the same ones you do,
Hmm.
same genes. So no, and I did get a couple of the HPV vaccines.
But we're both multi-susceptible.
We are.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I thought it is interesting that there's a connection. And I would be curious, I don't know anyone else, and I'm sorry if you're watching this and I know you and you have it, but like I don't think I know anyone else who has this, but I would be very curious if we have some, viewers that have CIRS that also have this illness. Because again, I haven't met anyone else in person that I know of that experiences this particular autoimmune illness. It is pretty rare. We can talk about what it is not. Alopecia areata is not contagious, so that's good. It
You
is
can rub your
genetic,
bald,
though.
bald spot on people and they won't too become bald.
They won't also become bald.
Could you imagine? You're just
So,
like,
so weird. It's generally not normal male pattern or female pattern baldness, like a general hair thinning. Generally speaking, I think that it could manifest that way, but that's a different thing than what we're talking about here.
I have a hair loss in CIRS episode.
Yeah, we do.
So
That's right.
we should
And
link that.
yeah, we'll link that. And there could be lots of other causes for that. Not eating enough protein, not having enough calories, having some kind of illness. Like there's a lot of other things that you could look at if general hair loss is your problem. It also is not the same as postpartum hair loss. Again, similarly, you grow a lot of extra hair when you're pregnant and then you shed it afterwards. That's a different thing as well. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, any other hair thinning from other illnesses or causes, treatments, other things like that, clear, obviously are not the same thing. But what is interesting is there are different types, or I should say tiers or severities of the alopecia illness. There's alopecia areata, which is a spot, and that's what I have. And you can have multiple spots. And I thought it was interesting. I read that it could happen, it tends to happen on the same side of the head,
Hmm.
which actually, if I remember correctly, I think all of mine have been on the right side of my head,
That's
which is
so fascinating.
so weird. That doesn't make any sense.
It's also weird that it's a perfect circle.
Isn't it? Yeah, that's the part that like, and why does it stop? Why is it just there and like it doesn't get big? I mean, knock on wood, it can. I guess I'll continue. The next one that you could get is alopecia totalis, which is the entire scalp.
One of my
And
favorite actors has this. I need to figure out what
oh,
his
really?
name is. Yeah, he's hilarious. It's this show called Barry. It's about this hitman who does act like he gets into acting. This doesn't sound like a good show, but I love this show. And he one of the people he does hits for is like the Russian mob. And the Russian mobster is just, what is his name? It's so funny. Yep, I'm kidnapping you for this.
I am excited. I am waiting.
I feel like you would like this show, but it's probably kind of heavy for you too. His name is Anthony Carrigan.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
and
the actor actually has it?
mhm,
Oh, interesting.
he himself has it. And they
Mm.
don't, yeah, his name is NoHo Hank. And they don't mention it at all in the show. It's just like he's
He
just
just is.
there representing. It's
That's
really cool.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does he have eyebrows?
Nope. No
Oh,
eyelashes, no
wow.
eyebrows, nothing.
Oh, interesting.
Totalis, totally.
Well, that it may be, I don't know if he then the next tier is alopecia universalis, which is actually your
Oh,
entire body. And so you can actually lose everything, all hair, which for some people, I mean, that saves you on shaving. But like I would rather shave than like not have all my hair.
yeah,
So
I've
like
seen
that's not
some
a benefit.
women like they do makeup tutorials and they have the kind where they don't have eyebrows or eyelashes, and so they're like showing people solutions for like drawing on eyebrows or like
Mhm.
they're kind of like toupee eyebrows that they
Oh,
glue on.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So they
That
get
makes
the actual
sense.
hair appearance. And then
Yeah.
typically they'll do like fake lashes and stuff. So it seems like it's becoming more of a known thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. And then again, like I don't know, it's if it's tied to CIRS and environmental toxins are on the rise and vaccines are on the rise and like all kinds of other new viruses, like there's just a lot of things that could be causing it to be happening more, maybe even more than the percentage that I quoted earlier these days. But yeah, I don't know where I was going to transition from that. I will say though, alopecia universalis and totalis are both exceptionally rare. Like the condition in general is already rare as it is, but like 80% of people have what my version, basically, if they're going to have any version, and it does regrow, generally speaking. For me, thankfully, it always has, but I've had 5 patches in my life so far. Some risk factors to consider are, of course, genetics. Again, that's another reason why a CIRS podcast is talking about this because it's all genes and you're predisposed in certain ways. And maybe the stress in your life or some trauma in your life is the trigger for it. Maybe CIRS is the trigger for it and or other illnesses. Another risk factor, of course, with all autoimmune illnesses is if you have one, you likely have two or more. So so if if you have another autoimmune illness, it's more likely that you would have this one. But especially, I found this interesting, especially celiac. I didn't know this until I was researching for this episode that this alopecia areata can be a manifestation of a gluten intolerance, basically. Of like that's how the body is reacting to eating gluten. So
Ooh.
maybe that's the symptom you have instead of GI issues even. Because some celiacs are asymptomatic. They don't even know that their body is having inflammation other than, I don't know, like other than a patch of hair being missing, I guess. But yeah, so those are the people who may or may not have it and what it looks like.
And do people have options, like if they do have it and it's maybe affecting a larger area of their head or it's in a spot where they feel self-conscious about it?
Yeah, there's some treatments that people, and I have tried a couple when I first got my first patch. First, can I say first more? I didn't know it was going to regrow. You don't know. It just happens and you're like, "Oh my God," and you think I think the worst. I won't say you. I always jump to the worst conclusion. So when I saw a doctor, and I believe I saw a dermatologist, that's who you would probably want to see if you had this happen. They did a steroid injection into my scalp. Didn't hurt that bad. It was a weird feeling. I don't know if you've anyone, if anyone's done Botox or stuff like that, it's a very similar feeling. It's like injections on bone don't like I have a tattoo behind my ear, almost painless. Like needles and I don't know, maybe that's just me. I'll stop talking about needles though in case anyone's weird about it, like I know Jacie is. But you can get injections to basically stop the inflammatory response and then encourage hair growth from there. You could use stuff like Rogaine, like any normal, go to a dermatologist, any other prescription-based thing, cream they might recommend for you. They may have suggestions like that. For me, aside from the first, maybe second patch I've ever had, I've just waited for it to regrow. And I didn't do anything for it, and it did regrow. That said, the newest one is still pretty sparse, and by now it should have been growing at least a little bit. So I don't know. Again, I just went through back surgery.
Yeah.
So, my body's probably healing other stuff first before it bothers with that. So anyway, but those are your options as far as, what you can do. And like I said, most people, 50% of cases, it's just going to regrow on its own. So you can wait, especially if it's not something super obvious. I'm so thankful I am Mexican and I have Mexican hair. It's the most Mexican thing about me, I would say. And I just have so much hair that not even, I had a patch at one point that was pretty close to like the top of my head and people still, like, I'd have to like, pull hair apart to even show people. So yeah, those are all possible. And then of course, as I mentioned, if it happens to be a manifestation of celiac, removing gluten can help regrow hair if that's the reason that you lost it in the first place.
Well, thank you for sharing your personal experience with it. And I think we're both very curious to see if anyone wants to drop a comment saying that they have it. If you don't want to like drop your medical information in the comments, feel free to DM us. But we're planning on doing more of these, talking about the conditions that are not necessarily directly a result of CIRS, but like were triggered because you had CIRS or can be related to CIRS in this way. So if you want us to hear us talk about a specific autoimmune condition, please let us know and we'll be happy to do that and put in some research time to see how it might be impacting people.
The reason that we want to cover autoimmune illnesses also is the fact that, I wonder how many people have an autoimmune illness that they could actually manage or even become either asymptomatic or put in remission if they were to also treat SIRS. So I'm excited for hopefully grabbing the attention of more people who may only know about their autoimmune illness because that's more mainstream and they're more likely to have gotten that diagnosis. But then what if they thought, you know what, some of these SIRS symptoms also match in addition to the fact that I have this autoimmune illness. Maybe I'll look into treating SIRS, and then it would just be interesting to see if that autoimmune illness would chill out a little bit. Now, obviously, mine has not chilled out yet, but I also know that one, I just went through back surgery, and two, I have tick-borne stuff to attack next. So I am very curious once I get more healed and more along my healing journey, if I'm going to see less flare-ups, even when in times of really heavy stress. It'll be an interesting thing for me personally to track, and I have the same hopes for anyone else. It would be great if everyone could, their autoimmune illnesses could chill a little bit if they were to address SIRS and, of course, their environment as well.
That's literally my story. So,
Yeah,
spoiler alert, we're probably going to do one on arthritic conditions, ankylosing spondylitis, HLA-B27 for those in the know. And that I that's how I found SIRS. I was going through this really painful autoimmune flare, and I had uveitis, and ankylosing spondylitis is the slow fusion of your spine to your hips. Very painful. And all I did was SIRS treatment. I never did biologics. I did steroids for my eye for a short period of time, but beyond that, I didn't do anything specifically for my autoimmune stuff. But SIRS treatment healed all of it. And I haven't had a flare since, I mean, knock on wood, 2023, early 2023. So it's been 2 years with no symptoms of any autoimmune issues.
it's amazing.
It is
It's
amazing.
exciting. And I really hope people can get hope from that because is it always going to be the case? No. I don't want to say SIRS treatment is going to cure all the things, but man, if you can lower the inflammation in your body, like how much better are you going to feel overall to where even if you do still experience some symptoms, it's not as bad or it happens less frequently or it's just like not as big of a part of your life anymore. It's like all of those things matter so much in the end. But anyway, thank you, Jacie, for coming along this ride with me to talk. I mean, I've had this illness for like 20 years that I've known about and I learned stuff today just researching for this episode. So thank you all for indulging me and helping me learn more about it too. And I hope it was helpful.
Yeah,
And for more resources and support in your healing journey, join us over at theCIRSgroup.com.
we'll see you there.